Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing good today. So something really interesting just dropped for Minecraft, and I know a bunch of you have already started noticing it on your consoles or PCs. That new update, the 3.21 one. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today. It might look small on the surface, but trust me, it's got some fixes that are actually pretty important if you've been running into crashes, lost items, or weird behavior with bundles and golems. And before anyone gets excited thinking this is some massive feature release with new mobs or dimensions, it's not that kind of update. This one's a hotfix patch, but a really necessary one. And if you play on Bedrock, whether that's on console, mobile, or Windows, it's worth knowing exactly what's changed and why it matters before you even hit that update button. So let's start with what this update actually is. Basically, 3.21 is the Bedrock console title version that lines up with Minecraft's internal build 1.21.113. It rolled out around October 9th, and while it might sound tiny, the stuff it fixes can seriously impact your worlds if you use automation, redstone, or custom scripting. If you're one of those players who loves building sorting systems with hoppers, chests, and bundles, this one's definitely for you. There was this nasty issue that's been frustrating people for weeks. Items and bundles could just vanish if you place that bundle inside a container above a hopper that was already full. Imagine working hours on an organized system, only to find half your items gone because a bundle just deleted its contents. That's the kind of thing this update finally addresses. So yeah, it's not flashy, but it's one of those fixes that keeps your hard work from disappearing. Another big one is with the copper golem, which honestly, it's one of the more charming additions people love messing with. There was this weird issue where if you interacted with it while holding something in your offhand or while you had armor equipped, it didn't drop the item it was carrying like it was supposed to. Basically, it kind of broke the logic behind how that mob behaves. Now, that's been fixed. So if you're doing builds where copper golems are part of your automation or aesthetic setup, that behavior should be back to normal. It's small details like that that make the world feel smoother again. Minecraft can be quirky sometimes, and patches like this are what keep it running the way we all expect. Now, here's where it gets more technical, but still worth understanding, especially if you're into creating custom worlds, add-ons, or mods on Bedrock. The update also includes fixes for a couple of scripting crashes. There was a potential crash that could happen if an actor query ran while the world was still loading. So basically, if a script tried to get information about something before it fully existed in the world, it could make your game just shut down. That's the kind of bug that doesn't hit casual players as much, but for creators or people hosting realms with experimental scripts, it's huge. They also patched another one involving the use of certain string formats. Like if a script used a specifier that tried to format a string that was longer than expected, it could crash the game. It's a pretty specific fix, but those are exactly the type of issues that can make an otherwise perfect world unstable. So if you're someone who makes adventure maps or custom experiences, you'll probably notice smoother stability now. And while we're talking about scripting, one more quiet but useful improvement came in with how equipment filters work. You know those filters that check if something's equipped or not? They now properly support main hand as an equipment location. That means scripts and commands that rely on checking what you're holding can now do it more reliably. It's a tiny addition, but it expands what creators can do without workarounds. I know most players don't mess with the deep scripting side, but if you enjoy add-ons or community-made worlds, that's the behind-the-scenes stuff that helps everything behave more predictably. So yeah, that's the heart of this update, a bunch of small but meaningful stability and gameplay fixes. But let's talk about what it means for players like you and me, because honestly, sometimes it's not even the big content updates that affect us the most. The smaller hotfixes can be the difference between your world running perfectly or crashing when you least expect it. Think about how many times you've built something automated, or you've got a chest system relying on hoppers and one random bug throws everything off. Or worse, when you've got bundles full of resources and suddenly, poof, they're gone. It's the kind of bug that doesn't just waste time, it kind of kills your motivation to keep building. So having that fixed brings some peace of mind. Now, I know some of you have already updated and maybe noticed nothing major changed. That's actually the goal. When Mojang does these small patches, they're meant to quietly make everything feel smoother without you having to think about it. But some players on forums have been saying that right after the update rolled out, they ran into issues like crashes or lag spikes that weren't there before. That's usually part of the rollout process. Not every device or console gets the update exactly the same way or at the same time. So sometimes it's just a mismatch of versions between local and cloud saves or between clients and realms. If that happens, don't panic. It doesn't mean your world is corrupted. It just means you might need to reload or restore a backup. Which brings me to probably the most important part of today's discussion: backing up your worlds. I cannot stress this enough. Before you apply any Minecraft update, no matter how small, make a backup. It's just one of those habits that saves you from disaster later. If you're on Windows Bedrock, you can go to your worlds list, click that little pencil icon beside your world, and hit Export World. That'll create a .mc world file you can store anywhere: external drive, cloud, whatever. If something breaks after the update, you can just import that file again and everything's exactly how you left it. For people playing on Realms, it's even easier. You can download your world straight from the Realms settings, so you always have a recent copy before the patch applies. Console players, I know it's a bit trickier depending on your system, but it's still doable. On Xbox, you can use cloud saves or copy data to external storage. Just make sure it's synced before you start the update. On PlayStation and Switch, cloud backups usually handle it automatically if you have that feature enabled, but always double check that your latest session is synced. Trust me, it's worth those few minutes of effort. The worst feeling is logging in after an update and realizing your main base or redstone system got wiped or bugged out. That's the kind of frustration that's totally avoidable. Once you're backed up and you've updated, pay attention to how your world feels. If you're one of those players who experiments with automation, see if your hopper systems and bundle storages behave properly now. If you're into scripting or mods, test any add-ons you use and make sure they're still stable. Most creators update their packs or behaviors quickly when these hotfixes land, so it's worth checking if your add-ons have new versions too. Mojang doesn't usually change much under the hood in these patches, but sometimes subtle fixes can affect older add-ons that relied on buggy behavior. Now, something else worth noting is that the Java edition of Minecraft runs on a completely different schedule. Around the same time, they've been releasing their own 1.21.10 builds for Java players, but that's separate from this one. So if you play on both versions, don't get confused if you see different version numbers or patch notes. Bedrock and Java share the same overall content direction, but have different engines. So when one gets a hotfix, it doesn't always mean the other does. What's cool though is that both are being actively polished. Mojang's clearly trying to keep everything stable before their next major content push. Now, I've seen some players online saying stuff like, why even bother with these micro updates? Nothing changes. But honestly, that's the wrong way to look at it. These are the updates that keep Minecraft alive and reliable. You might not notice them, but without them, the game would feel way buggier over time. Every single patch like this cleans up a handful of tiny things that could stack up and cause bigger issues down the line. Think about how massive Minecraft's codebase is now. It's running on almost every device out there, with servers, realms, and mods all interacting in different ways. Keeping all that consistent is a huge job. So when an update like 3.21 comes out, it's more like maintenance on a car. You might not see it shining new parts, but you'll definitely feel the smoother ride after. That said, if you're someone who runs a server or manages a world with friends, it's a good idea to let everyone know about the update before they log in. That way, you don't end up with one person still on an older version trying to connect and getting version mismatch errors. It's a small step that saves a lot of confusion. And if anyone does run into issues after updating, remember, you can always revert to your backup or re-import your last world copy. Sometimes even reinstalling Minecraft after an update helps clear corrupted cache files, though that's a last resort. Another thing I want to point out is that this update, being a hotfix, doesn't change any core mechanics. So your builds, farms, and contraptions should all behave the same aside from the bugs that were fixed.